morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 84 of the True North Eager Beaver Interview Project. Oh, Canada! Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Tuesday, January 20th, 2026, for broadcast on, I believe it would be Thursday, January 22nd, 2026. So we are traveling a little bit in time here today, kids and cubs. And we have a wonderful show planned for you today because we will be talking about two subjects, actually. We will be talking about autism, and we will also be talking about the creative process because we have with us someone who is an author who happens to be living with autism. As you know, autism has been a lot in the news lately, particularly with what we've heard in the United States with RFK's very interesting pronouncements, and he's been making them for quite some time about autism. And then that whole thing with Tylenol that was just really, really weird and didn't seem to have any scientific basis whatsoever. We also have issues, particularly in Canada, in the province of Ontario specifically, because Doug Ford, our premier, seems to have no love or compassion or care or awareness of what it is like to be living with autism and the resources that children need specifically. So there's a lot going on. But we will also talk about the creative process and writing because our guest today is also an established self-published author doing some really interesting work. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But before we go into that, a big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. And of course, kids and cubs, we need to ask, how is your mental health today? Mine doing quite well. As got through our morning show, and it was very good today. Took a little break, and now I get to sit down to have a wonderful conversation with a wonderful person. So, very warm personality, and therefore, for me, it's a lovely day, and my mental health is in an incredibly good state, and I hope that yours is too. So let's get on with it, kids and cubs. Our guest today is a millennial based out of Barrie, Ontario. She is currently a self-published author that does art on the side through her company, Space Whale Dreams. Of course, we are happy to plug it. Please note this, Space Whale Dreams, in case after seeing this, you would need some services. You never know, right? We should support each other. A holder of a bachelor's degree in computer science, she has a background in IT programming and data science. She has published 5 books officially, and I'm going to guess that they are a little bit in more of the science fiction field for those of you who enjoy that. But I will let her speak to that a little more uh, extensively during our conversation. Because it's her art, and we will let her speak to it herself rather than me having to, try to describe it to you. Oh, why not go to the person who actually made it? So, kits and cubs, if you would, please put your paws together and give a big round of applause for our guest, author Shannon Frances Smith. Shannon, welcome to the Beaver Lodge.
Hello.
Hello. As we do with all our guests, we like to ask, how is your mental health doing today?
It's doing okay.
Okay.
Could be better. I mean, it's been a pretty stressful couple of years, and the news is scaring me. I think it's scaring a lot of people.
Yeah. I've had this tightness right sort of here in the sort of the sternum area
Yeah.
that comes a lot often, and this sort of like this. I'm hardwired for optimism and positivity and stuff, but I have this undercurrent of existential dread.
It's just a matter of like what's going to be first. Does Greenland get invaded, or is there a civil war in the states?
Mm, yeah, we've been wondering that too. When you're in a weird situation, it's almost like if I had to choose, it's like I'm almost hoping that there was civil war in the States first, because at least that might keep the problem contained to that area instead of expanding all over the place. And maybe if they're busy fighting each other, the rest of us will be left alone.
Hopefully, though, if there's a civil war in the U.S., some of those war refugees are going to make their way across the Canadian border, legally or not.
Exactly. And then
So their war is going to be our problem, whether we like it or not.
yes, that is absolutely true. And then, if we take in people, that could probably result in another escalation. I mean, given that what's going on with Greenland, we got to Donald Trump saying, if you dare to reject my advances, for lack of a better word, on wanting to purchase you, then I will make your lives hell. I'm guessing there could be an opening for something similar. If you dare accept any of our citizens that we are trying to control and let them escape to freedom, you will have a very hard time. I don't put it past them. Let's just put it that way.
We are in very strange times.
You're in very strange times. Oh my word. Oh well. Yeah, I feel you. It's been the optimism. I will admit, has been a bit more of a challenge. What do you do in these times to stay to keep your optimism, if it's possible in this era?
I don't know if keeping your optimism up is the optimal word. I think it's more like just um, keep maybe maintaining some degree of sanity and energy. I I do a bit of reading. I do quite a bit of gaming. Um, Mostly into like action adventure and simulation games at the
Right.
moment. Um, the occasional indie horror. Um, and I do try to keep myself into my work as much as I can. Like
Mm.
like get my writing down, get some art down. Um, Maybe take a peek at what my little business is doing, just to say that I've been productive.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Trying to.
Like it's that classic line between um, it's that line in the sand between being self-employed versus unemployed.
Mm, yes.
You may have like even like likely in the beginning you probably have been like, am I actually employed?
Yeah. Yeah. I figured, yeah, you're probably right in the sense that focusing at the task on hand, and again, the things that you can control at
Yeah.
least, is probably a good distraction. I guess, from that sort of permanent feeling of what's going to happen next.
Paratroopers dropping out of the sky, I can't control that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think some of our best minds, they only have so much control over that.
Indeed. Since we're talking about them, I'm sure that as someone who is living with autism, you were rather familiar with what RFK has been stating beforehand and what he stated since, and the whole Tylenol thing. To you, when you heard that, or even when you heard that RFK would be becoming the Secretary of Health, or wherever you want to start the timeline on that, what were your thoughts? What was your sense? Like, I'm getting the sense that you would probably say, "Oh, this can't be good," but beyond that, what were you kind of thinking at that time?
Well, I was probably... Well, I think it would have been more along the lines of, wow, the Americans elected Trump again? Really?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I would have been immediately thinking about RFK Jr. or anyone in Trump's cabinet, for that matter, because
Right.
I probably wouldn't... Doesn't mean I'm Canadian. I'm not going to be that hyper-focused on Senate hearings to confirm someone.
Right.
And RFK Jr. is someone that, at the time, would have been a bigger deal in the U.S. than in Canada.
Right.
So I wasn't even exactly aware of him, who he is, and why I should care that he exists, to put it bluntly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I listen to people say anything, there's a couple of questions I ask myself. Who are they?
Mm-hmm.
And why should I give a crap what they think?
Mm-hmm.
And usually for the latter question, are you a domain expert, or are you in a decision-making position?
Right.
In which case, yeah, maybe I should hear you out.
Right.
Otherwise, I don't care.
Right.
And I feel that that's my sentiment whenever somebody complains about some A-lister, B-lister, has-been, whatever, going on social media and saying their mind. And I know for a while, like, they were looking at some of these right-wing people, like your Ted Nugents and your Kevin Zorbos, and you're like, well, they're entitled to their opinion, but they're entertainers that aren't exactly relevant anymore.
Right.
They're not experts in what they're talking about.
Right.
And they're not in positions of decision-making.
Right.
I don't care what they think.
Okay.
And I think, frankly, I wish people would apply that logic more often.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people, I mean, yeah, you're allowed to say whatever you want, and there are a lot of people with a large following who will pay some attention, but I don't have to care what you think.
Yeah, that's a good way
I know that's as mean as that sounds.
Well, I mean, one person, I guess some person could think of it as mean, but on the other hand, when you think of just the sheer quantity of information that's coming our way, and that everybody in this world today is a publisher of some kind,
Yes.
Right? There's so much, and everybody has an opinion on something, even things they shouldn't have an opinion on. Often.
I know. And I believe, like, one of the beginnings of the end for journalism as we understand it had to do with the fact that anyone with a blog could call themselves a journalist. So
Right.
What is the person on TV with the paper at the anchor desk doing that's special from a random person with a blog chatting with the guy down the street?
Right. And then that depends, the name, I'm a journalist, versus actually doing journalism,
Yes.
All depends on whether or not you as an independent, because we do have some great independent
Oh, yes, there are.
journalists, right? And citizen journalists, but they are holding themselves to standards that have already been really established, that tells us what journalism is.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have people that are just, taking on the mantle of being citizen journalist, and they're just basically writing whatever their opinion is, no matter how verified, substantiated, or sourced. Yeah.
And while there are scenarios where telling reality apart from fiction can sometimes blur, and of course, a lot of people don't understand the difference between fact and opinion. I mean, fact is just what it is. Opinion is how you feel about it.
Right.
I mean, you're allowed to say that the clear blue sky today is ugly. Or you're allowed to complain that because you're colorblind, you don't quite see it right.
Right.
Or you're going to debate over what the color exactly might be. But to try to tell me that it's a navy night sky or it's an overcast day when it's obvious the sun is out, yeah, that's not your opinion. You're just wrong.
Right.
Why
Right.
you're wrong is a separate matter. Like, like, do you have issues with sensory input? I mean, I'm trying to put this as delicately as I can.
Right.
Like, are you colorblind? Are you blind? Right? Maybe you perceive it maybe you do perceive it on a fundamentally different level from everyone else. Or you haven't been outside, so you don't know what the weather is like. You haven't checked out a window. Or you're lying. And
Yes.
you have some sort of selfish ulterior motive to try to convince me that it's overcast outside.
Right. Right. And what you were saying, even though it sounds cold in one way,
Mm-hmm.
given the sheer amount of information, given the sheer amount of imposters that we have, it is a pretty good basic triage mechanism just for preservation of mental health here.
Yes.
Right.
But I don't have to consider everything everyone says.
Right, exactly. Because again, there's so many people and so many people saying things that there's just too much to consider. So, are you somebody that has knowledge in this particular domain to impart and a reputation for delivering knowledge soundly, hopefully, that
Like a
makes it so.
climatologist talking about climate change is somebody you should probably pay attention to.
Right, right,
Or
exactly.
the leader of the EPA, because what they think will affect environmental policy
Right,
or their understanding of the facts of the matter.
right. Yes. And if you're a decision maker, as you say, well, this person could have some power, some authority over you or the quality of your life directly. So you hope that they too are listening to the people who are experts or who are recognized in their domains and using that. But then again, well, as is for the person who just says something that is not an opinion, that is just wrong, there are various motivations that function in this world when it comes to having power and decision making influence over what happens to other people that are not always motivated by fact or best intentions or even good faith.
Yeah, and I think when we start talking about autism specifically, there's a reason why, while I would outright dismiss someone like Jenny McCarthy for what she has to say, I'm not altogether upset with her. The person I'm really angry at would be Andrew Wakefield, who faked the study that she was reading in the first place.
Mm. Yeah, I can see
Because
that.
there is that line in the sand thing, okay, you're wrong, but you're still honest. Like,
Right.
you are saying something that you've been told is true and it's not, versus you're lying.
Yeah, because
And
there's a difference between repeating misinformation and not yet knowing it's misinformation and deliberately constructing a message that you know to be false.
yeah, I believe like in in cybersec um, when it comes to like information integrity, there's a specific term for intentional disinformation.
Right.
Whereas misinformation can simply be you're unknowingly wrong,
Right.
which can happen. I mean,
Yes.
we're all human,
Guilty.
and we don't know everything, and we're not experts in everything. So if you hear someone who's an expert in something that you're not an expert in, you might just go along with what they're saying if they sound convincing enough,
Mm.
even if they're not actually an expert and um, are wrong, or they are an expert, but they have an ulterior motive for lying.
Hmm.
And you see this a lot with politicians, and it's one of the reasons why people hate politics so much.
Right.
And why there's this fantasy of like the singular all-knowing machine
Right.
that is factually accurate about everything and will solve all of our problems, including stuff that is arguably a political issue. Now, it's a fantasy, but the fantasy exists because we've all ran because I think a lot of us have watched enough politics, enough debates, enough to know that a lot of these can devolve into a game of secret Hitler, where not everywhere. Ideally, a politician is trying to serve their community. They have, they will do the best that they can with what they have and what they know for their constituency. And of course, you will have we'll take we'll take for example, you have people who are addicted to drugs in your community. What do you do about that?
Right.
Or how can you reduce harm and death in them?
Right.
Now, there will be some people who will argue in favor of what they call safe injection sites, which is a form of harm reduction.
Right.
Where but of course, the mentality is, okay, you're going to shoot up, at least do it in a safe environment with a clean needle and someone who can test to make sure you're not about to shoot up with this detergent and fentanyl.
Right.
And you're not catching AIDS from a dirty needle.
Right.
And you're not in an environment where you can be taken advantage of while you're high.
Right.
Right. Now, there will be some. Now, of course, there's an ideological conflict with others who will argue that aren't you supporting somebody doing a thing they shouldn't be doing? And that's when. So then you start getting into this debate about whether or not you should have safe use injection, or whether or not you should be forcing rehab, even though that has its own problems too.
Right.
Now, both people, the person in favor of safe injection and the person in favor of forced rehab, they both are trying to solve the same problem.
Right.
And they're both coming at it from different ideological POVs, but they're trying to solve the same problem. That's ideally how you want politics to be, where you agree on what the issues are. The solutions are probably going to be wildly different and will follow a different ideological understanding of how we should proceed. But of course, then you have the issue of a couple of people who are in politics because they want power,
Right.
for whatever reason. They want power. They don't want to have to account to nobody, or they're a puppet of somebody who, for whatever reason, wants to do bad things. Like you may have a corp who wants you to locks up environmental regulation because they don't want to have to pay extra to safely dispose of garbage.
Right.
For example. Or you have others who they want to be a Hitler themselves. So next thing you know, you have a room with some people who they either are trying to solve different problems, or they're coming at a solution to a problem that wouldn't work, and
Right.
it would obviously not work. But they're pushing that particular solution because they're not interested in solving the problem. They just want to do something unrelated, like
Right.
a power grab. Thus, before you know it, you're playing Secret Hitler, where you're making alliances with certain politicians to push legislation, and you're hoping against hope you don't elect Hitler.
Right.
Because then you end up in what's going on in the States right now.
Right. Exactly. Considering what's been going on in the issue, and you could speak to it either to the United States because what they say goes around the world and influences a lot of people, or strictly here to Ontario, what's been going on with our government.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at the autism file, what are some of the pronouncements that you have heard, for example, when you're doing this triage thing, that are just wrong?
Well, I know from RFK Jr. I mean, right out of the gate, trying to put controls on vaccines, arguing that they cause autism.
Right.
When every replication study has come back saying there's no correlation between any vaccine, especially the MMR one, I think.
Okay.
And autism. And people who study autism, because those exist. I mean, there's branches of psychology, and there's branches of genetics even. There's and various aspects of biology and anthropology that look into this stuff. And they confirmed that there's a genetic component
Right.
that would not be affected by the vaccine when you actually get it.
Mm-hmm.
There is the coincidence in some people where they'll get vaxxed, and then a month later they start developing symptoms of autism, or what would be the obvious ones. But of course, at the moment we're diagnosing babies before they actually get vaxxed. So,
Right.
yeah, and I think there are a few telltales before that, where an expert looks at your kid like, there's a good chance they're probably autistic. I mean, you may have to get them looked over more for a confirmation, because you can't diagnose someone by looking at them. That's not professional.
Right.
But I remember having explained to me that a lot of times, I mean, I don't know, like newborn babies, their eyes tend to be closed, right? So it's a big deal if you see a baby that's like a day old and their eyes are wide and looking around everywhere. I've been told that that's a common autism sign.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because this might be related to something I heard, and I don't know if you can speak to it, but I was listening to a report. It was a mother who had a child with autism, and realizing around the age of 3, I think it was that something wasn't exactly as one would expect it to be, and then going through a whole bunch of other data, it was sort of the brain was processing 42% more input or information than the average person does. There's just so much going on at the moment. I don't know if your personal experience is similar. Do you feel sometimes that there's just so much coming in at once that you just don't know where to focus first?
Yeah, it does feel that way. It can feel that way quite a bit. I mean, it is a common issue that autistics, they don't have an internal or external filter. And to explain the differences, an internal filter would be that's the easy one. It's a thought crosses your brain to shout a slur, and you realize that you probably shouldn't do that, so you don't do it. That's an
Right.
internal filter. Like usually, like you are familiar with, like people just blurt out the first thing they think about. They don't have an internal filter.
Right.
External filter is being able to ignore stimuli that isn't relevant to you. So that's like you're sitting in a restaurant with a buddy of yours, and focusing on what they're saying to you and ignoring the conversations occurring all around you.
Right.
Like the number of times I've found myself, like my mom's talking to me, but I don't even realize she's talking because I'm too busy watching the TV.
Right. Okay.
Or paying attention to what characters on the television are saying.
Right.
Or I'll be in that restaurant scenario, and I'll start laughing because I heard a couple of people a few tables down tell a funny story.
Right.
And people that I'm sitting with going, "What are you laughing at?"
Yeah, especially if they're telling you about their latest illness or something.
Yeah, it's like, did you not hear those people a few tables down? They're like, no. And they're looking at me like I'm nuts.
Okay, so the lack of the external filter seems to be something that could be pretty overwhelming.
It can be, yes.
Okay.
Like I know in some autistics, not me so much, but in some, like it can get me to the point where clothing is unbearable.
Okay.
That's where that stereotype of like a lot of them wanting to strip down or where whose clothing comes from.
Yeah.
And then of course the ones with them not liking loud sounds.
Right. I experienced that a little bit with my partner Alex, not because he's autistic, but just because he has a hearing impairment in one ear, and it takes him so much to focus that if there's any stimuli coming from any other place, he just sort of just gets overwhelmed and it just blocks, and so basically just stops listening because he can't focus on anything.
Well, it's worth noting that a lot of traits within the autism community, they do exist among the neurotypical.
Right.
to a lesser degree.
Yes. Indeed. Indeed. Um, so, um, in the whole field of autism and the whole range of the condition, there are various levels, I guess, for lack of a better word, functionality
Yeah.
that are in the that are there, and people are described as high functioning, uh, and whatever other terms. I'm not familiar with them specifically.
Hmm.
Um, but when you were, let me put this. I would suspect that you have other friends and acquaintances who are also living with autism
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and experience it different than you do. So, from what you gather from your circle, like this, um, is there some general overall concern? Like, how are people feeling about the level of services that are available, how the issues being addressed, how their needs are being met?
I know the general consensus seems to be that it's not quite enough, especially for people in the lower functioning end. And now I do have an older brother who is fairly low functioning. I mean, he can talk, though he's technically nonverbal because good luck carrying a conversation with him,
Okay.
right? Like at best he can go through a bunch of scripts that pre-memorized scripts, and at worst you say something and he doesn't respond, or he will just say yes, so you shut up,
Mm,
regardless of what you asked him. If you asked him anything, and he doesn't seem, and of course, it's because of some of that external filtering, he doesn't seem to have a lot of self-awareness
okay.
in the sense that you can't trust him to cross the street without looking both ways so he doesn't get smacked by a car.
Okay.
And there have been a few near misses. He hasn't actually been hit by a car, but there have been a couple of near misses.
Oh my.
Yeah. And I know that, and like they're, and while he's hyper literate, he can read, and he can read out loud back to you if you needed him to. We also learned a few other scary things, like his concept of money is I hand you this colorful piece of plastic paper and you give me food. Like that's the extent of his understanding of money.
Okay.
And apparently he can't do math very well.
Okay. And I could see how that could cause a situation if he was attempting to live semi-autonomously, goes into a store, gives someone a colored piece of paper, and somebody tells him it's not enough or doesn't get him the food that he wants,
Mm-hmm.
then there could be a reaction that happens afterwards.
There's also the issue of a less than honest clerk or cashier taking advantage of him because he might not realize he needs to wait for change.
That too, yes.
And my mom has been kind of scared of handing him like a prepaid card for buying things.
Right.
Because I mean, he barely understands money when it's a very visible thing you can hold in your hands. Is he going to understand it when it's a more abstract notion of it flying out of a piece of plastic? I know that's not technically what's happening, but you understand what I mean.
Yep. It's interesting you mentioned that aspect too about people wanting to take advantage of you because I have a friend, Johnny, who is living with Down syndrome, and we go out now and then. And I remember one time we went to McDonald's, and asked him if he wanted a milkshake, and the guy at the cash, clearly seeing that Johnny had Down syndrome, asked him, was asking him if he wants like an extra large, and it's sort of like, well, he's going to say yes. He's
Even though the
clearly
extra large is going to cost more.
going exactly, and the extra large is so big you can swim laps in it, right?
Yeah,
And I'm
I have
thinking,
seen like the extra large drink at a McDonald's.
right? And I'm thinking, it's like his mom may not appreciate me pumping him with that much sugar, right? A reasonable size milkshake, but you're sitting there and it's like now all of a sudden you're in this situation. Well, how
There's a lot
if
of
you're going to
sugar cream, yeah.
upsell, exactly, you're upselling to someone who you know
And
is
immediately
going to
that's a
say
hard
yes to
one.
everything.
Immediately that's a hard one because, I mean, the sales clerk may actually be instructed in his training to
Yes.
sell, period, and stop. And could get in trouble if he's caught not doing it.
Yes, exactly. I mean, he's just doing his job as he was trained to do, but then, you know, it may not be malicious.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, it's like, dude, you know, I'm looking at him with those eyes. It's like, it's
I
like,
mean,
don't
know
ask
what
him if he
classic?
wants the largest, most expensive one.
I know, like, a classic one for, like, family at a restaurant, like, with myself and my own family, right? Because, I think you probably are aware a lot of places offer free refills for pop in exchange if you provided you order dinner there, right?
Right.
And a couple of times, it was a routine thing that every time the person asks, "Would you like another?" my brother would be like, "Yes, I'd like another Sprite." So they would hand him another Sprite. Common, it would be all too common. My parents would be like, "We're not exactly in town. He's about to order his third refill." They will actually say to the waiter, "No.
Yep.
He needs to pee."
Yes.
We
Yes.
don't want him to have to pull over on the middle of the road.
Yes.
Or worse.
Yes. I know. And I'm sitting there and it's like, well, I guess we're committed now. We have to take the shake like this. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to drink it all. And like I said, when we met up with his mom again, she knew how to take it out of his hand and said, "Okay, you've had enough because you're not drinking this whole thing. You'll never go to bed tonight." Right.
Right.
But yes, there is all these things that we don't think about. People willing to take advantage. People who are, like you said, good natured, just doing what their job training is. But their job training doesn't include a component. Hey, if you see someone who may be atypical, maybe don't upsell at this point, right? Because that fine line between upselling and taking advantage of someone who you know you can't say no becomes a little blurry.
In fairness to like the restaurant example that I gave, I mean, the server, like, I know in other places where if they know you ordered a pop and they see the cup next to you empty, they just refill it without asking.
Right.
Remember being on a pub run with some coworkers, and that happened with the one guy who doesn't drink, and he's like, "Huh? Why am I giving me another pop? I can't drink 2 Cokes."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's that too. Yeah. Didn't even think of that. That's why I mean. There's so many ways that the world just functions that are not that doesn't necessarily take these things into consideration.
And again, I don't completely blame like servers on this because
no.
In a lot of places, I mean, pop is free with an entree.
Right.
Or if you're ordering pop and you're in a group of people who are getting plastered on alcohol, they might assume you're a DD. So they'll just give you what you want.
Right.
So, and of course, because it's North America and they assume people want more for what they pay for,
right?
Give it to you.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm. And I think in a lot of places, pop is treated like water. It's free out of the tap. Here you go.
Yeah. The services, as you mentioned, are probably not adequate for the people who have greater needs. For you particularly, have you needed to access services in any way? And if so, what has your experience been trying to interact with the system?
I know a couple of times I've had to, like, I know having to go for like counseling, and that's been kind of hard because it can be hard to get someone, and when you do, it's you're not, when you do, I mean, you're not exactly with them for a time and all that. Like, I know, like, for like stuff that is offered through OHIP, you need a doctor's referral from a general practitioner, right? Which for some people, you may have noticed it's a doctor shortage.
Right.
Yeah. So that's easier said than done. And I know a couple of times I did try to get ODSP, though I got rejected for not being needy enough. But even if
Okay.
I was to get it, it's not a lot of money a month.
Right. Okay. Um, for your brother, if getting other services for him who needs more, if
Yes.
you noticed, your mother, your parents looking for them, have you noticed that it's been a particular struggle?
Oh yeah, I mean, especially for my mom.
Mm,
Like trying to get like funding for his various programs is, well, it's paperwork. Right? Like these things tend to be paperwork.
okay.
Devils in the details sort of thing. And I know that especially with conservative or right-wing governments, they tend to be slow to want to give services.
Yeah.
Like they have a very different idea of how economy should work, um, for better or worse. I know a lot of them are of the opinion that you should just everyone should have a everyone should have a job and be able to, and then they should be able to afford it themselves.
Right.
Um, you and I know that that's not practical.
Right.
Um, but of course, how much of that ideology is sincerely believed versus a lie being told by people with shadier motives, hard to say.
Hmm. Okay. Um, today, in your daily life, what is the aspect of living with autism that you find the most challenging? Is it more your ability to navigate through the world, or more how people respond to you?
Well, there is something that is commonly referred to as autistic burnout, um, which tends
Okay.
to happen, especially if you're on the higher functioning end, because a lot of people have made the point that high functioning could be code for masking,
Mm,
or you have to put on all this energy to appear normal in public
okay.
and to actually in order to actually get along with people. And because a lot of things that a neurotypical person would be able to pick up on right away, it takes someone on the spectrum a longer time to figure it out.
Right.
And they have to actually think more carefully through what they're about to say next and what they're about to do next on that. Um, and of course, there's a lot of ruminating over, did I do that right? Did I say that right? Did I get the reaction that I wanted?
Mm,
I can't tell. And that does take a toll on you after a while. And I think I'm on several medications for anxiety and depression because of it.
okay. When it gets a lot, when you get to that overload or that exhaustion point, how does that typically manifest?
Um, it just gets really hard to get out of bed in the morning.
Mm,
It just gets really hard to want to leave the house or leave wherever it is I'm living. I haven't always lived at home. I have spent some time living on my own. I have held down a corporate job at one point. Um, and I noticed that even then, I was finding there were days where I was phoning in sick, not because I was puking ill or anything like that, because I literally didn't have the energy to get out of bed. And I think at
mhm.
one point, um, when I was living in Toronto, it was getting so bad, I would actually have like a can of Monster next to my bed every morning, try to try to just get enough caffeine in me to get me up, and sometimes it wouldn't be enough.
Mm,
And if you ever looked at how much caffeine's in a can of Monster or similar drinks,
that's a lot.
yeah. So if you're finding that you drink one and you're still too tired,
There's something else going on.
yeah.
Yeah. See, I've never had one at all. I'm way too zippy. National
I know some people are caffeine sensitive, so
Yeah, I've tried coffee literally twice in my life, and both times I couldn't understand how something that smelled so good tastes so bad.
I mean, I've never been able to acquire a taste for coffee. I've usually gone more towards like the energy drinks and the energy crystals.
Indeed. Um, if there was, if there was something, if you were a decision maker, and you had the opportunity to change something right now about how um, people living with autism, regardless of their functionality, are being treated either by the government or the systems that they have to interact with, what would be the thing that you would change?
Maybe that's a hard one. Um, I think the world itself, I mean, society collectively just needs to be a bit more benevolent before it can give a proper answer. I know that like there are things that like maybe the system needs to do to be able to better understand autistic people. I noticed that it doesn't seem to be able to understand people. Period.
Okay. In what sense?
Well, I've noticed that. Well, I mean, well, for one thing, the economic structures is in the capitalist stage, so you tend to see all this poverty as jobs disappear, and it is starting to get to a point where even the very wealthy are starting to lose their grip.
Right.
And it's not even a matter of like they've lost their complete minds. They have all this power through money. They're getting to a point where the money doesn't seem to be able to buy the power that we used to.
Indeed. Okay. Slowly moving.
When a common, like if we're deciding on a common response to someone who's having a mental disturbance, never mind autistic, who's having a psychotic break, is stun gun.
Right. Right.
I mean, those same people are going to deal. The same, like that same cop is going to end up dealing with somebody who might be having an autistic meltdown, or somebody like in the low functioning range who's just having a tantrum.
Right. And we've seen that too over the past few years. Remember on the show, I think it was in Toronto, that there was a family that had called in the police to come in and help. And rather than help, they ended up shooting him. And it was all explained beforehand that there was an issue, and that it would take some patience and whatnot, and the people that came in either did not get the memo or something happened. I don't know what, but there shouldn't have been a loss of life from the situation in any way, shape, or form.
Like I know a common problem with law enforcement in general is we're asking them to do things that they are not trained to do. I mean, they're not trained in mediating a family dispute. They're not trained in dealing with mental health. I mean, that's it's one of the reasons why there was this divestment movement where you move some of the money you normally would give law enforcement and give it to other departments that would lower the burden that the police would have, because the things that they would be dealing with, like, yeah, my 80-year-old grandma, I haven't heard from her in a week. Could you check and make sure she's okay? You don't need to send a full uniform cop to do that. You could probably get away with a social worker knocking on the door.
Right. But for that, you need more social workers. And some of them.
There are scenarios where the cop might unwittingly escalate.
Right. Exactly.
Because I mean, somebody's being irate and violent. I mean, how you would handle somebody who's in that situation in a bar fight might be a very different case from how you would handle that if they're having a psychotic break.
Well, yes, because in a bar fight, you're still expecting somewhat, even people maybe not have mastery of themselves over a moment, to still somewhat be rational actors. at this point. There's a certain range of moves that you would expect that someone would make in that situation. But if you're dealing with someone that's either in a for reasons of mental health, a breakdown, or for other medical reasons, not able to process information at the speed at which the person that is delivering either reassurance or orders or commands or whatnot is giving them, and gets frustrated and lashes out in some way. And then that gets reinterpreted as, oh my God, now I'm in danger. I need to take action to neutralize this. Bad things happen very, very fast. And I think that's what you were talking about, when you're talking about having social worker, there were either at least these interdisciplinary teams where if you happen to need law enforcement in case something happens, it's there, but that the lead for dealing with the person or the subject at the time is someone that comes from a field that actually does have experience in the situation that could be going on, that it might be better for everyone. But of course, our systems are not necessarily organized like that yet, or at least in places that they are, a lot of them are still pilot projects and not necessarily firm programs yet.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that as a society, we are still trying to get away from our roots in a authoritarian monarchy where where people at the top more or less dictate on high how society is ran. And
Right.
of course, democracy does not compute with that, right? It's a very different system. And of course, society has gradually moved away from that. Although you need to see places like the States and that how easy it can be to go back to that if you're not careful.
Let's see. Moving in to what you are doing now. You are are you entirely self-employed now?
At the moment, yes.
Okay. When you weren't self-employed and you're out in the job field looking for work, how's that experience been for you?
Well, I know that finding work in general can be
Yes.
very stressful. I mean, you're submitting all these applications, some of which require you to jump through a few hoops in the form of you're going through a pre-interview on some website, and fingers crossed you get a call back.
Right.
And then you might get a call back. You're given an address to go do an interview at, and then you answer the questions and hope that you aren't completely wrong or sound like an idiot or whatnot. And then you come back, and then you hope that you hear from that, and then you eventually go home here and wait to see if you actually got the job or not. And then you get the job, and then a couple of weeks in, you're like, well, I hate this, but I wanted this, and I need a paycheck. Here we go.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I hate this, but I wanted this. That's a feeling that a lot of us, that everybody can relate to in some way, pursuing something so hard. I remember my first program in university. I worked so hard to get the grades to get in, and it was limited group that was getting in, and I got in and I got there, and I thought, oh my God, this is so fantastic. I finally made it. I'm in this prestigious program that everybody wants to get into, and they only allow 50 people in, and I'm on my way. And after 1 month, I was like, oh my God,
Then a month in, you realize
so much.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. Yeah.
It's like all that for it. And it's like, I do
Yeah.
not want to be here. I remember going home for Thanksgiving, and I was at the table and I was crying. Please don't make me go back. And we just sent back for my stuff, and we packed everything and brought back home. I was miserable. And it just felt at that point, given how much work I had put in to get to that point and to get there and then realize this is so not for me at all. And what do I do now?
I don't know, when I was in college and then later uni, some advice I heard for are you sure you're in the right program? One I heard was do you get along with your colleagues or your fellow students? Maybe not so much in more particularly in the courses that would be with others in your program or major. Because if you don't, well, may not exactly then you may not exactly click with that field. And another one is, and I notice this more in university than in college, but in university in particular, there is that one, maybe two second year course which feels exceedingly hard for second year.
Yeah.
And I always felt that those classes were are you sure you're in the right major class?
Right.
And I think when I was in uni, for me, it was like a algorithm course. And I noticed that, I remember talking to the professor about it, and like students routinely complained about how difficult this course was because it involved actually, like, he wasn't just talking about the theory of compilers and coding and whatnot. It was actually writing programs and writing algorithms to do stuff. And a lot of people struggled with that. And I remember having a professor explain to me the only non-CS people who could pass this course were physics majors who left it thinking, I never want to touch a computer again.
Mm.
Like, it was that brimstone.
Okay.
And I've always felt like and I've always felt that, like, you kind of need to understand algorithms to be in CS, right? Or computer science, right? Kind of makes sense.
Right.
Right? You're learning about computer logic and how computers think and the syntax of different programming languages and how it wants you to give the instruction to the machine. Can't wrap your brain around that? Yeah, that's a rethink your life moment.
Yep. Indeed. It's amazing that there are several courses that you're saying things and you're making me think back to like my university experience, and certain courses it's like, yeah, no, this is not for you too. Or, you're just, the way that you see the world is just diametrically opposed to how things work in that field. And it's almost like you're doubting yourself every time because your first instinct tells you to go someplace, and it's always the wrong place in this particular field. And then you think, maybe this is not, maybe my ability to see the world in the way that I do is best served by being in another
I know
field.
it's not helped that, like, my generation especially got sold this belief that if you want to succeed in life, you have to have a degree.
Mm,
So you have a lot of people getting, yeah, they went through school, they have a degree, and then they're sort of going, okay, now that I have my degree, now what? Okay, I get a job, but what job can I get with a major in cultural studies or philosophy?
hmm
Because not every field is going to have that. And even like my field, which is like computer science, which does have like that job roadmap where you go, you get your CS degree, your diploma or whatnot, and then you get a job either as a technician fixing stuff, or you're building software for another firm, or you're doing data science or what have you, right?
Right.
And you kind of watch that implode over time because I mean, education's getting expensive compared to standard of living. It's no longer it's no longer as guaranteed as it used to be. My parents' generation, especially,
Right.
and we're running into schools that are straight up scamming their students by giving them a worthless education.
Right.
And then, even though the education may not necessarily be worthless, a lot of them, they don't have that roadmap for monetizing the knowledge.
Right.
So people are now left trying to figure out what to do with their lives, and that can be hard. I mean, and of course, one of the problems with this is like it's expecting someone at 17 to know what they want to do for the rest of their life,
Right.
which isn't that realistic. I mean, I think I've met people in their almost 30 who still didn't know what they wanted to do with their lives.
Right. I've met people in their 50s who haven't figured it out yet.
And
Yeah.
and of course, it's not helped that you have people who not help that like you're doing the thing you wanted to do, and then suddenly there's a calamity of some description.
Mm.
Like there's a sickness in the family and you have to be called to be a caregiver, or you got laid off
Right.
And there's been downsizing in that field. Or maybe some sort of like catastrophe happening in your community, and then it's just sitting there going, okay, now what?
Yep. Yep.
You got to pick up your life and figure out what now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, right? When you think about it, it says life can throw you a curveball at any moment also to destabilize you. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that is
And I know that
intrinsically built into a system or something.
And I know that a lesson millennials learn from watching their parents is employers have no loyalty. Many of them have watched their parents who worked in a factory for 30 years.
Right.
Then get fired 3 years before retirement, so then have to pay retirement pay.
Right.
Or give them a diminished pension.
Right.
And of course, we're all sitting there going, okay, so then what's the point of staying with one company for 30 years then? Right.
I think that's where that whole attitude that everybody is just me incorporated now has sort of come from. Because I think of myself that way, and I've been for a while now.
So, which is why, probably people have complained that millennials job hop. Well, that's because we don't see the advantage of sticking around.
Right.
Especially since in a lot of places the politics can be such that whoever the biggest suck up is gets the promotions, or whoever's the most competent.
Right.
So there's no reason for me, or worse, they're practically dead-end jobs that are nepo hires or things like that. So at which point there's no reason for me to stick around. I mean, I could actually, if I want a promotion, I'm going to another company.
Right.
Like, it gets really silly. And that's, of course, assuming you're able to even get your foot through the door. Because the last corporate job I had, things didn't work out in the office, and I was let go for that reason. And no matter how many applications I've submitted after that, I couldn't find anything since. Not even just a callback, which is very disheartening.
Indeed.
If you're not getting a callback on applications, you just sit there going, there's no reason for me to keep sending applications because all that's effort wasted.
Right. And as you mentioned,
yeah,
and as you mentioned at the beginning of this, I mean, just finding a job in this current environment is tough enough. Our co-host, Mr. Grizzly, had been looking for a job for, about a year, right? And in his particular field, and very, very, very experienced in his field, and extremely hard worker, extremely dedicated, all the qualities that you can want in someone. And it still took a year for him to position himself. And that's just in the current environment. If you're in a field that is either dwindling, if you're in a field that has a lot of high competition, if you have you just add extra layers on that complexity right off the get-go. And I'm going to, when you were working in a private companies, either during the interview process or while you were working, because you are high functioning, were people able to detect early on that you process information differently, or was it like until like something just happened out of the blue and they just couldn't understand why you couldn't get it this time because you were getting it all the other times before?
Well, I know like in the beginning, I mean, I think one of my first job out of college uni would have been in a call center, because I was having a real hard time actually finding work, and I had to get something. I mean, though in context, this would have been in it would have been like in 2013. So I mean, there had been a recession that was being recovered from still, and of course, I mean, I'm sure the fact that I didn't do very well in interviews wouldn't help, because autism would affect that
immensely.
even things like not being aware the modulation of your voice is correct can make or break conversation in many cases.
Okay. Have you? Has anybody ever given you feedback on your interviews or whatnot to let you know an idea how they perceive you?
I believe I have a few
Okay.
times, especially early on in college and whatnot. And I guess I would be told that I either being too formal or I'm using some bad examples or something like that. I mean, I have gotten that kind of feedback.
Okay. But nothing specifically, because you were mentioning about like how your voice is modulated or your speech patterns, or that some people might need, a couple of extra seconds to gather a thought. So maybe it makes them appear less confident when all they're doing is really thinking. It hasn't been anything like that.
I don't recall that kind of feedback necessarily.
Okay. Has there ever come a time where you at some point realized that you needed an accommodation of some kind, and how was that handled?
I think the scenario has come up a few times.
Okay.
Because I know when trying to save my last job, I did have to I did have suggested that maybe I should look into accommodations. I remember just sitting there going, accommodations for what? It's not like I'm blind or have mobility problems or something like that. So how? And I think that was when I also had to go um, check it for an ADD dual diagnosis, which is common among the Aspen community to the point where it's questioned whether or not ADHD may actually be the same thing,
Okay.
just a different range.
Gotcha.
And it's been confirmed that I do have issues with the attention span, and I do have issues with I was going to say this. Being able to maintain focus can be hard. Being able to collect one's thoughts can be hard. And I know I am one of those people. It's not to the degree where I need to be moved or anything like that, but I am one of those people who can hear fluorescent tubes buzz, especially when they're near late in life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like white and like cool light does tend to annoy me. And I know I'm not the only person like this. I mean, a lot of department stores bug me because the lights tend to be a bit much.
They're harsh.
But of course, I remember having it really pointed out that I am a terminal eavesdropper because again, external filters shop. I hear everything in the office. I hear everything in public places.
Yeah.
And it can be hard to just be like everyone else and just be focused on going from point A to point B and only be aware of that unless something really out there happens.
Right. So now that you're self-employed, I assume that there are advantages in that you get to create your own work environment.
Yes.
For all intents and purposes, yes, you might have deadlines, but you get to create your own work hours and that type of stuff. On the other hand, you have the disadvantages that you have to make it rain. You have to go out and look for clients and customers, or people to buy your books, or people to hire you to do creative work.
Yes.
In that sense, have you found it easier ultimately being self-employed?
It has its advantages. I mean, it's weird because I really feel that there's more stress that I have now than I did back when I had a corporate job, and yet I actually am happier.
Okay.
And, I mean, it's a weird thing to describe. I mean, you'd think I would be more miserable, but I'm not.
It's a stress you can handle, or the trade-offs for work that you're better able to handle than the stress you were getting in the corporate world, or just the benefits of being able to organize your own workspace and work time to suit you compensates for all of that.
Perhaps, yeah. Because I mean, arguably, there's more to do, and the income security is not what I would like it to be.
Yeah,
I mean, it's scary.
it is. It's very scary. Yeah, myself, I've been self-employed for a while now, and it is definitely scary. And my partner's the same thing. He's in a post-secondary teaching, and that's, unless you have tenure, that's term to term. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't know what next term is going to be like, and through a combination of the classes and TAing and vigilating and maybe tutoring, and you put it all together, you have a full salary or a full-time job or career, but that's a
They'll pay
lot
the
of
rent.
stuff to manage.
Yeah.
And then, of course, as you're self-employed, well, then you're your own business, and whether or not you just register at the Ontario level, whether you incorporate, and then all the paperwork stuff that's required, and all the administration, which is like not the job that you do, right? I always wonder about people who become chefs who like to cook, and when you become a chef, you're not cooking anymore. You're doing inventory, and you're approving menu designs, but you're not in the kitchen actually creating stuff and make it, which was your passion from the get-go. And then some people discover that along the way they have a passion to be a business owner and start a chain or whatnot of restaurants, and other people just like, I just want to cook.
Yeah.
It's just not where their passion lies.
Well, I know when I was at SAP, this would have been like I was with them for like a couple of years, and I do know that they did have they actually did have like a promotion stream for people who didn't want to be managers. So you could get promoted, get a higher salary, have more responsibility without being made to manage a team of people and not do the thing you were originally hired to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, at least that company, anyways, accepted that not everyone wants to be a manager. Not everyone is management material.
Right.
Not everyone makes a good leader.
Right.
It's kind of something you need if you want to be a manager.
Yep. Yeah, I'm a very, very good follower.
Yeah.
But it's true though, because we are all called at some point to lead. It doesn't have to be necessarily in the work world. And again, we have areas where our abilities and our affinities are are better matched up in places. Whether or not I've been in places where I've been asked to lead, and I'm like sitting there and I'm going like, I have no idea how things work here. I mean, you really asked the wrong person.
I mean,
Says, but you have all this wonderful
too. That's
yeah.
I'm in a group with a few friends of mine, right? And they're routinely looking at me because I'm more of a follower than a leader, and because I tend to be more outgoing, I guess would be the word. They're looking at me, more outgoing, more out there, and arguably more willing to do things. They're looking at me for guidance, and I'm just standing there going, "I don't know any more than you do."
I know. It's such a weird feeling when you get that. It's like, well, you've led on things before. It says, yes, I have, but not this kind of stuff. I don't know nothing about this.
Well, the wild part about it is I had explained to me that in uni that it's one thing to call yourself a leader, but to call yourself the leader, right? It's another thing for a third party to call you the leader.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother different thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if a third party is doing it, they have an experience of you and a knowledge of you that sees you as that is said, they have esteem for you that is elevated to that in how they perceive you, that this is a person who's a leader, or, if we need something to go to bat, someone to go to bat for us, ask Shannon, she's outspoken, ask Shannon, she knows how to do this. We've seen her do this with this person once, and it could be a totally different field, but we've seen her do it with this person once, so she'll be able to do it here again. And it's like, not necessarily so. Or maybe you just don't want to at this time, or you don't have the resources. I'm sorry. It's like, I would love to and I have the ability, but I just got too much going on. You have to have somebody else. There's many reasons you could not want to be in a leadership position other than, it's like, I don't have the skills. Sometimes you just don't have the bandwidth.
Yeah. I do remember having a moment with a friend of mine where, I used to do a lot of streaming onto Twitch, like mostly video game playthroughs and stuff. And I was chatting with a buddy of mine who was a moderator on a Discord server that was meant for like periodic like groups get together and game, right? And she was asking me for my advice on dealing with a couple of like problem users.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember saying to her, "Yeah, I'm sure, arguably I'm a content streamer who occasionally has to moderate my chat, but I think you would know more about this than I would because you're actually in the weeds, maintaining the peace in the community and making sure it doesn't devolve into complete gross toxicity."
Mm-hmm. Yep, I can see that. Now that you are more self-employed, and I'm assuming that you're doing things that are in line with your passions.
Yes.
As well. Do you feel happy? Do you feel fulfilled and accomplished?
It does feel accomplished to actually get stuff done, yes. It does feel accomplished to actually be able to write a book, get it edited, and then assemble it and get it out there for people to buy it. It feels nice to do that. Although I know that it's self-published, it's not like I had to like query a publisher and get them on board, get an agent on board with what I'm doing. I mean, it's hard to do it well, but anyone can upload a manuscript to KDP.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, again, not all works are equal, and you have done this 5 times now, at least, right? So you have a process. You have skills. Yeah, you've got. You probably see an evolution in your writing over time, and the way that you put stories together and how you develop your characters.
And a lot of it would also be a reflection of like where I am in my life when that story got put together.
Yeah.
Yeah. The world was a different place. I was a different person.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you talk to us about your writing? What style of writing do you enjoy or do you engage in?
Sure. Admittingly, I'm a little all over the place. I mean, so far my published work is predominantly fantasy. There is some science fiction in there.
Okay.
Like case in point, I believe the one book I wrote, Quantum Songstress. That's a cyberpunk. Yeah, that is a cyberpunk techno thriller.
Okay.
It's your classic story. You have a hacker who finds this one other hacker syndicate/entity ? That is able to bypass basic information security to put things out there, and it's causing a disruption within a highly technocratic society. And the hacker is supposed to know who this person is and why they're doing what they're doing. And that's kind of where that kicks off. Fun story to write because I got to flex my CS background to writing it. And I mean, if you look at the titles that I gave you, they're all over the place. I mean, Champion of Seasons and its direct sequel, Guide for Madness. They're more epic YA fantasy with mythology. And it's like the classic journey of a young woman who's more or less trying to discover herself in a crisis, being led on by a very suspicious person. Not an evil person necessarily, just a possible piece of divinity, Yes. And of course, there's And then of course there's Whispers of the Abyss, which is Lovecraftian horror romantasy. Yeah, that's Champion of Seasons there.
All right. From
They're all over the place.
yeah.
And there's that one other book. I'm not going to say the title because it's. I mean, you probably have read it. You know, it's smut.
Oh, there's we like smut here. We don't judge. Please say more.
Okay, well, it's romantic. It's like fairly on the tin romantasy.
Okay.
It's called. I did warn you. The Cucking of Lord Grenadine.
A what?
The Cucking of Lord Grenadine.
Ooh, oh my. Okay.
Like I said, relatively name on the tin. This lord, he slighted a desert king, so the guy was going to take his revenge by screwing his wife.
Okay. Okay.
It's not meant to be serious.
Oh, yeah. No, that sounds. You know what?
Yeah. Well, like I said, in Whispers of the Abyss, it does actually have erotica elements to it, and it follows a romance between this woman and an eldritch monster she's trying to free.
Okay.
And it is horror leaning, so expect it to be gross.
Okay.
Warned.
Interesting. Smut and horror together.
Like I said, I'm all over the place because I think a piece of me is still trying to find myself as a writer and what my niche is.
I can see that. You know, it's really funny. I was listening to an interview with the singer Ray.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's no, sorry, BB Rexa. Sorry, BB Rexa. And it was like her 5th or 6th album, and that one was self-titled BB.
Right.
And somebody said, like, why did you wait until your 6th album to call one, like, make it eponymous, right? And it was sort of like, I think that this is finally the first one after all of this where it's actually like every song on this really is me. So I just called the album Me. But yeah, exactly. I can see that, you know, because it happens in various artistic pursuits.
Yes, it does.
That you come out and you have something to say, and you have a story inside you, or a song inside you, or a dance inside you, or something. But at first, there are other authors and singers and songwriters and painters and dancers and whatnot that you like, and you say, oh, I like it when they do that, and you take that element and you borrow that element. Like there's a lot of sort of like a little bit of theft going on like this, and then you add to your own.
Yeah.
And then eventually you hit a phase where you don't need to borrow from anyone anymore, really, because you've been doing it long enough, or you had enough kicks at the can that there's something that comes to you at some point and you go, oh my God, this is the one. Because, and this is the story. This is, all these other songs I had in my heart that I wrote like this was lead up to me singing this song or writing this book. This one is really full of me. Not full of me, as in being full of yourself, but I'm bringing all of me to the table, right? When I wrote this. How have you noticed your progression or your evolution, let's say, from your first writings to, let's say, your latest novel?
I noticed that, like, while I'm writing now, that my work has started to take a bit of a darker tone. It might be just a reflection of the times we're in. As I know, like, when I was younger, themes tend to be less nuanced. That's because you probably are a younger writer to do it. Because I do know some of it is like you progress with the craft over time, or you improve upon it as you work on it. And others is, well, you as a person has changed. Like you've learned more, you've also matured.
Mm-hmm. And for you, how is that sort of, what have you noticed in your own maturity as a writer?
Well, I noticed it. I think it was the most noticeable with like Champion of Seasons, Guide for Madness, where the first book, the crisis was the person was in a mountain more or less praying for death because they lost their traveling companions. Um, when the Guide from Madness, no, Champion Seasons was written in 2018, though it wasn't published until 2023, 2024, I think. And so I was in a different place in my life versus Guide from Madness, which was written and published more recently, where the starting calamity is the protagonist's village gets ascended on by witch hunters looking for witches, and they're pretty well burning everything. So you can tell like a very different. So you can tell like a very different shift in tone, very different take on where things were going. That is that is Guide for Madness, the sequel to Champion of Seasons.
All right. And in the stories, let's say these particular two, because it's a sequel. Is it the same characters that are coming back in the second one and the first one, or are they new characters but picking up on the theme?
I think it's a bit of. In A Guide for Madness, the protagonist from Champion of Seasons is present, though she's not the protagonist of Guide for Madness. It's someone else, and the traveling companion is a different representation of the divinity theme of that goes through the stories.
Okay. This is like asking for maybe a deeper question, but did the need for a new protagonist in the second one, was that a reflection of your evolution in your maturity writing, that you couldn't put those emotions or those feelings into a character that was already established and could be, predicted to go one way, so you needed a new character to put those things in? Or is it that the character that was in the first one has grown and evolved, let's say, in the way that you have, and therefore cannot no longer deliver the story as the main protagonist?
I guess it's a degree. I guess it's a combination of. I mean, I know when I went to write Guide from Madness, I decided that, it probably would be best if I had a different individual who would have a different spiritual guide from the person in the first book. And
Okay.
And likely it might eventually have like an amalgamation book where they get together and have to solve a common problem.
Mm.
And they all would have had different spiritual guides depending on their own circumstance and what they needed in that time. I mean, like the first protagonist ended up with a god that thing is about change and upheaval and dealing with when circumstances of your life change, and cutting your own path in society, in life. And the other person had to deal with the fact that they were surrounded by madness and lawlessness and systems that are supposed to bring sanity causing insanity, and having to cope with that. Which was why the one person, their god, was like the season's god, and the other person, it was the madness god.
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying which gods they were stuck with, because that's a spoiler in itself. But
Yes. Okay. When you write the characters that you develop, are they characters that in somehow have elements of yourself in it, and that you are using either to work out things or to grow yourself? Or are you making characters that are completely opposite yourself to sort of, create a reality that's not one that you live in every day?
well, I know there is a saying like you write what you know,
Right.
which can be hard to get away from.
Mm.
So in a way, I think there is a combination of like protagonists are like me, but enough not like me to not be me.
Okay.
Alongside some of them just being like interpretations of like my own interpretation of a character that occurred elsewhere, or a person that I've seen elsewhere from before as well.
Right.
But ultimately, it's kind of hard to not reflect them on yourself.
Okay. And through creating a character, whatever they're doing in the story and whatever their backstory is that leads to their motivations in the story you are writing, is there anything in there that calls upon that calls upon maybe not stuff that you know, but stuff to which you aspire?
Probably, sure. I mean, I know that for a couple of them, we want to like. It's like trying to figure out that, like, especially in a fantasy work, trying to find that happy medium between what they call grimdark and noble light.
Oh, those
Those
concepts.
Well, grimdark usually refers to like really dark fantasy.
Okay.
Like it's called grimdark because the world is kind of bleak in many cases. Think like Game of Thrones or something like that. Versus noble light, which would be more akin to a fairy tale.
Okay.
Like these are your stories of like chivalrous knights rescuing princesses from a very blatantly big evil bad guy. Right?
Okay.
Stuff like that. So that's what those terms mean. And then I think for me, it's like I want the world to be dark enough that there are problems,
Right.
but not so dark that you just stop caring what happens, and you just don't feel for any of the characters. And of course, you want the characters to be flawed, but not altogether despicable.
Yes.
Outside of a few edge cases.
Yes.
Like sometimes you want someone to be universally hated.
Yes.
That exists. I mean, like sometimes you want your character to be Trump. Someone
Right.
who's just universally revolting. But other times, but of course with like dark and bleak is you don't want, obviously you don't want most of your characters to be complete bastards. I mean, they
Right.
may be flawed, they may have selfish or violent or hateful tendencies, but they're not altogether evil.
Right. Flawed but not irredeemable.
Yeah, or they genuinely want to do the right thing, they just don't know how, or they have a very wild idea as to how to get around that, how to get to that, how to get to the end of the means of it.
Okay.
These are complicated people. These are complicated.
Out of the characters that you've developed so far, do you have one that holds a special place in your heart?
There's a bunch. I mean, I know the figures of divinity in Champion Up and Guide Of were both very interesting characters in their own right, because especially the one in Champions, who's supposed to act like a immature teenager yet have the wisdom of an old god.
Okay.
Which is a difficult balance to strike. And I know the protagonist of Whispers of the Abyss, which was the Lovecraftian horror romance, was a traumatized person who more or less had this eldritch monster prey on it to convince her to let him into the world, to do what no one is exactly sure what he'll do once he's out. I mean, it is Lovecraftian style horror. It tends to be cosmic horror. That is, like, part of the horror is you have no idea what's going on.
Okay.
Or you don't fully understand the bigger ramifications of what's happening.
If a member of the Dam Fam was to pick up one of your books after seeing this conversation and was to read it, what type of experience when you wrote the book, your intentionality was it that they would have, and as they are finishing the book and closing the cover, what is it that you hope they are feeling?
Well, I think it depends on the book and on the story. Um, well, I know, like Whispers is supposed to be unsettling and a bit gross. I mean,
Okay.
the protagonist ends up, I think it's like the Eldritch Abomination. Fun times. Like, look, I mean, it's gross. I did warn you. And also, so like, it's horrifying, it's unnerving, and you kind of feel for and you kind of are meant to watch this person more or less devolve to the point where they don't see an issue with the world being destroyed,
Okay.
or that's what's going to happen. Um, and I know, whereas I think Palm Songstress is meant to be more of like a kind of a fun time. That's it's old, though I wouldn't say it's disgusting. Um, and 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 well, the smut, you can tell by the storylines, meant to be a combination of arousing and funny.
Okay.
The title would give that away, I think.
Okay. So it's smutty, arousing, and funny.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like a good selling point. I would just say that's a marketing campaign right there. Smutty, arousing.
Yeah, it's hilarious and it's spicy. Have fun with this.
Oh, cool. Good stuff. And for those who are wondering here, we have The Cucking of Lord Grenadine, a steamy novelette, part of the Anatea Chronicles.
Yes,
Then
I think
the
it's
other
part of
books.
something bigger. Yeah.
Yes. And then we've spoken about a book called Quantum Songstress
Yes.
that you might want to get there. Whispers of the Abyss, another one. Champion of Seasons,
Mm-hmm.
of course. And then The Guide from Madness. So those would be the five. So please do, kids and cubs, because we're all for a little shameless self-promotion here. Go out and
Indeed,
buy the book.
yes.
Go out and buy the book. Listen to me. Look
Yeah,
into my eyes. Go out
and
and buy the book.
buy
Buy
the books. Buy at least one. So for anyone who decides they want to go with Whispers of the Abyss, its sequel, Beckoning from the Stars, is going to be out in April.
Ooh, good stuff. Since you mentioned that, when the very first time you turned around and you said, "I'm going to write a book. I'm going to try this."
Mm-hmm.
Um, where does that come from? Because I've often thought many times I wanted to write a book, and I can't write more than a short essay or a story. The continuity, the research, the character development, having people being consistent with each other and having motivations and all, that's a lot of work.
It can be,
And
yeah.
I don't have the discipline. I have discipline for a lot of things, and I've realized that I don't have the discipline for that. If it's more than 10 to 16 pages, um, I either I don't have the discipline or I get bored. One or the other. Maybe I just haven't found the subject that compels me enough to actually want to sit down and write about it, and write a full book. Um,
Well, one
but
thing
it's a
you
daunting
can.
task the first time, right? I mean, it's a daunting task every time, but the very first time is, especially if you've never done it before. So what was it that said, I was like, maybe I would be good at this?
Well, I know I've always kind of had this idea of wanting to write a book for a while. Um, I think what ended up changing, I mean, because I thought at first I wasn't really that much of a hurry to do it, considering that I was employed. Writing was mostly more of a hobby than anything else. Something I did to share with some friends and then have a good laugh about. Um, but then when I lost my job and couldn't find another one, was when I decided to like really get into publishing more and getting it out there and trying to get something out of it. So that was when I decided to take the manuscript that I had for Champion of Seasons, and I had it for a while. And that was when I went and got it professionally edited, and then I ultimately assembled a book and put it up on Amazon.
Okay. When you brought it to the professional editor, um, did they say anything to you after having read it the first time, whatnot, so
Well,
that gave you some encouragement, like, wow, this has promises, or something that.
well, I learned that every editor tries to say that they like the story. Whether I believe them's a separate matter, but they always say they did.
Okay.
And then, of course, as part of their job, um, they tell you things that you can work on, things that made sense and worked, and things that didn't make sense, things to tighten up, characters that things that may need to be rewritten or dragged out or cut out or stuff like that. That's why you get them. And the editors do, for the most part, do state that the works are usually salvageable, and then you usually do save it.
Okay.
Like, I know the editing for Whispers was a pain because the editor came back more or less saying that I wrote and needed to write more.
Okay.
So it was a mad dash to try to get more words down to flesh out more of the world.
Yeah.
In a way that the editor felt that the book needed.
Okay. That must be interesting in that, for you, from your perspective, you've written it, it's complete.
Yes.
You've got your story, and somebody comes out and says, yeah, but I need more. And it's like, well, like more of what? More description, more storyline, more narrative, more complexity, more
Yeah.
pathos, more, did you get an indication of more what?
I managed to, yeah. There was a
Okay.
report and there were comments in the document. I mean, you can do that with like Word documents and stuff. You can like highlight stuff and write out a comment on it.
Okay. All right. So
I managed
was
to
it
get that. I mean, just to give you an extent of how much work needed to be put in it. The original manuscript was 60,000 words.
okay?
And by the time I finished with all the edits and drafts and it was ready for publishing, it was 80,000 words.
Whoa, that's adding like a whole quarter more to the book, a whole third more to the book.
And just to give you some perspective, I believe the bare minimum for size for a book to call itself a novel, like NOVEL, is 50,000 words.
Is how many?
50,000.
Okay.
So if you're anything between 25 and 25,000 and 50,000 is what they call a novella.
Right.
And then 10,000 to 25,000 is a novelette. And then it's 1,000 to 10,000 is a short story. And then anything under 1,000 is considered flash fiction or flash.
Okay.
And yes, you can write things that small. I think I have a few things on my website that are that small.
Okay.
That maybe one day will be in a published book on its own, but one thing at a time.
Yeah, because those are things that could develop later on into a full either novelette or novel of their own, or be a chapter in some other book that comes along.
Or it could just be in an anthology, standalone in an anthology of similar stories. I mean, those exist.
True. When you are writing, what does it bring you?
I think it gives me this ability to create, share an idea, share a story, share some thoughts. Kind of look at how things connect. Like go into how things dovetail and overall see if I can convey a message in an interesting package.
And is there, how long have you been at writing now?
I've been I think I've been professionally writing for the last since 2023. Although I have been writing on and off most of my literate life.
Right. Okay. Have you noticed anything about either the writing process or the business part of being a self-publisher that has helped you uh, or has been transposable so that you could use it in other aspects of your life?
Well, literacy is always nice. Like being able to write fiction. While it doesn't 100% translate to business writing, it does help when trying to use words and trying to craft emails and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, and overall, just being able to read and being able to put things together. Um, it does also help with like being able to imagine things and work that imagination. Because I mean, being able to try to imagine something in a different way. A lot of, probably have noticed a lot of people have a hard time wrapping their brain around things that are different.
Right.
And I think that being imaginative does help fill in some of the gaps some knowledge gaps that you may have, because a lot of problems, a lot of life is incomplete information problems. You're
Right.
going into a situation without knowing everything about it, and you still have to make judgment calls based on the lack of information that you have.
Yeah.
What you know you do or not. And I think overall it's just fun to tell each other stories. Whether they're true or not is a separate matter. I mean, it's irrelevant. I mean, I
Right.
think people going in to watch a superhero film know that superheroes don't exist, but that doesn't stop their enjoyment of the MCU.
Right. Right. I mean, w- we yeah. I mean, human beings are indeed storytellers.
Yes,
It's like
that is predominantly how we convey our information to each other.
right, right, and it doesn't uh, the format itself doesn't necessarily matter. It's so long as you've got someone who has a good story to tell and someone who's willing to listen, you've created a moment, you've created a space.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Interesting. All right, Shannon.
Yes,
Unfortunately, we are near the end of our time here.
gotcha.
But before we leave, we always like to ask our guests if there is something that our audience retains from our conversation, other than the shameless self promotion, because we'll plug that again at the end.
Yeah.
But if there's something that they should retain, what is it that you would like them once this interview is over and after they've gone and bought your books? That you would like them to remember either about living with autism or the process of writing or just getting in touch with your creative self.
Yeah. I'm just hoping that people do get an appreciation for like, the creative process as well as an appreciation for like diversity in general and for the various ways people can be and that I'm a high masking, high functioning autistic, but I hope that I'm still also seen as a person of some value and an individual that is capable of like being creative and analytical and all the other fun stuff.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's clearly obvious, of course, just by the tone and tenor of this conversation and the fact that, again, you have the discipline and the wherewithal, the courage that is required to put yourself out there as a writer, to try that initiative, to be a self-starter with your own business. Um, you have a lot going on for you. I have to say it's very, very impressive because there's a lot of things that you're doing that like I said, I only wish I could. I definitely have a story or two within me, but I'm definitely one of these people that hires a ghostwriter for that
Or
type of
you're
stuff.
writing shorter stories.
Yes, or writing short. I mean, a lot of people have had a lot of success writing shorter
Yeah.
stories as well. Yeah. Also, yeah. So yeah, out there, kids and cubs. If you do have a story inside you, but you don't have 60,000 words, write anyway. You never know what might come out.
I
And
mean,
it might be good.
I mean, there's not a lot of gatekeeping in self-publishing. I mean, there's nothing stopping you from putting a manuscript up to KDP other than yourself, really.
Right.
So that's hilarious when people are like, "Oh my God, you're a self-published author! How impressive!" And I'm just sitting there going, "Dude, I didn't put a manuscript to Amazon."
Yeah. I've learned in life sometimes not. I know sometimes it's the full truth, and nothing but the truth. But sometimes, if you hold back a couple of elements, sometimes things seem a whole lot more impressive than they are.
Yeah, a lot of things are like that.
I know. I remember one time I got asked to go to speak at a scientific conference, and I have no scientific background. And everybody's going, "Oh my God, that's so fantastic! You must be doing this." Like, all I did was fill out an application and ask, "Can I come?" And they said yes. It sounds really impressive when you tell people that, but it's literally, it's just I had an idea, I did some work, and then I just wrote someplace and I said, "Can I come?" And they said, "Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Why don't you come?" And that's really, it's not all it was. Clearly, there was work that went into writing it and all that kind of stuff, and but the courage just to ask, "Can I come to the party?" Sometimes is all that's needed for someone to open the door and say, "Yes, sure, come along." So you never take a chance, people. Take a chance, especially if it's creative. You never know what might come out. So, Shannon, before we go, I'm going to allow you to do your own plug. So, if people are going to buy the book, where do they buy the book?
Sure. I have a website. It's www.spacewhaledreams.com. And that's where you can find a lot of what I do, including like DRM-free EPUB files. There's also you can buy physical copies of each of my books on Amazon as well. They're available there as well. As you can see, that's my website there. And of course I do blog every so often as part of SEU. And of course the 5 that I have published are also there, so there's that. They're also on Amazon. I can be found on Blue Sky, and I do have a corporate account on Facebook for anyone else who's further interested.
Right. Excellent. And if you were going to convince someone to buy one of your books, any one of your books, what would you tell them?
Well, I do have something for everyone, I'd like to think. Whether you want epic YA fantasy with Champion of Seasons, or if you want horror in the form of Whispers of the Abyss, or if you just want smut.
Okay, all right. I'm trying to see if I can put a chyron up there so that I can have the name of the website, spacewhaledreams.com, pop up on the screen. I don't know how successful at that I will be, however, because when we're broadcasting live, we can do it. Unfortunately, it seems that I'm not able to do it on a pre-record, unfortunately. So,
you can always add it in post, couldn't you?
Pardon?
You can always add it in post, couldn't you?
I might be able to do that, indeed. I'll see if I can do that. I'm relatively new to adding stuff in post. Usually Mr. Grizzly does the editing. I'm just starting on that part. But for those who are wondering, again, it is spacewhaledreams.com. Shannon Smith is the author if you are looking on Amazon. And please do support, like I said, Canadians who make us proud. We have an author.
Support a Canadian author, guys.
Yes, absolutely. Support the arts. Thank you so much for joining us, Shannon. And,
all right, thank you for having me.
Yes, it's been a joy, and I've learned a lot. And I do hope that, like I said, a lot of members of the Dam Fam, whenever we have a guest on that has a nice book arrangement behind, there's a lot of them in there that want to dive into that book collection. So we have a lot of avid readers, and we have a lot of avid readers of fantasy specifically in the show. So you never know. There might be something for you there.
All right. You take care. Right.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
All right, kids and cubs. that's the end of this episode of the True North Eager Beaver interview project. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do, and especially when you include a word or two of yours saying why it is that our content resonated with you. It means a lot to us because that's advertising we cannot buy. If you want us to help you a little bit, sometimes you are too busy to watch the show live or on your own time. And because, you're out doing democracy, you're making things happen, taking care of your family, taking some time for self care, whatever the reason, when we are able to get new podcasts out, audio version only, you can go to our pod page, podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you click on subscribe, when the podcasts are available again and they'll be fresh off the bandwidth, they will come directly to you to your favorite podcast feed. And therefore, you won't have to wait for them. You won't have to go looking for them. They will just be there waiting for you to claim them. Now, kits and cubs, if you would like to help us in other ways, you can go to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page. The QR code at the bottom of the screen will bring you right there. And there you can click on like, share, and subscribe, which helps us with the algorithm. Kits, Cassie, and Elaine would definitely approve. And you can also leave some comments in the comment section if you would like to let us know what you think. So please do that. It all helps us with the algorithm, and it makes us very happy when we see our numbers go up. And if you would like to support us in other ways, because we do incur some costs to bring this show to you, kits and cubs, if you are able to help with that, because again, our content resonates with you and you would like to encourage us to do more, if you scan that QR code, that will bring you to the Emergency Hydration Fund at the Beaver Lodge, also known as our coffee page, coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And there you can make a little contribution, statement of encouragement that lets us know that you would like us to do more. And we very much appreciate that because when you contribute to the Emergency Hydration Fund, you help to keep your favorite beaver nice and moist. And we all know that a moist beaver is a very happy beaver. There you go. All right, kits and cubs. If you are buying Canadian, True North Eager Beaver at gmail.com is our email address, and you can send us a direct transfer that way. That way, nobody in the Barolakarki in the United States gets a share of your contribution. In fact, that share of the contribution comes to us. So you get more beaver bang for your buck. And that's always a good deal. So thank you for your support. We also have Super Chat and memberships here in YouTube if you happen to be watching the show when it is being broadcast on its premiere on Thursday. So there you go. You can help that way too. Now, kits and cubs, if you are, I hope I didn't say this. Oh, I did say this already. True North Eager Beaver at gmail.com, the email address, is also where you can make a contribution of the non-monetary kind because not everybody is able. But as you know, the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that matter the most to us. And by that email address, you can let us know what you think about the show. Send us some guest suggestions, some articles that you think we need to be reading in order to better prepare a show for you. All that good stuff. And remember, Kids Who Cook, our hashtag on our socials. Send us pictures of yummy things that you are cooking in order to give us ideas. And of course, because times are a little dark, if you've just got some personal good news, you're celebrating something, there's an achievement, you're creative and you've created something, please let us know what it is, because just as we share all the joy that happens in our lives and we're happy when you share in ours, we would also like to share in yours. And it definitely is a nice break from the doom scrolling. All right, kits and cubs, because democracy is something that you do, please remember on the 7th of next month, if you live on Prince Edward Island, well, you are going to have an opportunity, if you've registered already, to vote for the new leader of the Progressive Conservative Party, not the Progressive Conservative Party of Canada, the Progressive Conservative Party of Prince Edward Island. So please make sure that you do democracies there. And since on the day of the broadcast, this will be January 22nd, the second leadership forum will be taking place at the Cavendish Farms Wellness Center in Montague. You might want to check that out. And the third leadership forum will be at the Confederation Center of the Arts in Charlottetown, with the final leadership convention and vote taking place at the Eastlink Center in Charlottetown on February 7th. We also have our two petitions, House of Commons petition um, E6821, that would encourage the House of Commons and Parliament to pass legislation requiring majority Canadian ownership and control of print, digital, and other non-audiovisual news media to protect Canadian sovereignty, ensure journalism integrity, and guarantee that our media reflects Canadian priorities and values. And House of Commons petition number 7027, which would call upon the House, the Minister of Health particularly, to recommend and support within Cabinet the exercise of the Government of Canada's constitutional authority, including the power of disallowance under Section 90 of the Constitution Act of 1867, in order to annul or repeal provincial legislation enacted in Alberta and Saskatchewan that restricts the rights of transgender and gender diverse people. That legislation, as you know, has been shielded from charter scrutiny through the use of the notwithstanding clause, and this petition would be asking the federal government to reaffirm its responsibility to uphold charter rights across Canada. So if you can sign those, that would be great. And of course, as we mentioned, if you are living in the Windsor to Quebec region, Alto is looking for your opinion, because there's a public consultation going on at the moment, and you can participate in that by going to altotrain, all in one word, .ca/en for English /public-consultation. And there you can get all the information to either participate in a consultation that will be happening on site, that will be, or those that will be happening virtually, and there are also going to be consultations that are taking place online as well. So there you go, and your views are very much sought. So please do participate in that if you have any pressing thoughts about whether or not it's the route to the path, environmental concerns, all that kind of stuff with regard to the development of high-speed rail in the Windsor to Quebec City corridor. Words of wisdom, kits and cubs. Take some time to support the arts and Canadian artists if you have the opportunity. Our authors, our painters, our singers, our dancers, our writers, who are also our authors. I guess I repeated myself. But all the forms of creative art that we have. We are a country that is so rich in talent and perspective and diversity that there is no lack of things to enjoy. So please, if you have the opportunity, support Canadian artists whichever way you can. All right, kids and cubs, it could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. We will not have an Easter egg after this show, so right now I will say à la prochaine, bisous et amour, and we'll see you for Friday's show tomorrow. Until then, as I say all the time, be kind to and gentle with yourself. And with that, kids and cubs, I am gone. Oh, forgot to mention, even though we're not all here together, kids and cubs, at the count of 3, could you please say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock, and I'm going to pretend that you're all here with me now and that I heard you. 1, 2, 3. Ah, yes. See, you guys said it so well that I actually heard you 2 days earlier saying that you wanted me to cue the cock, because that's how it works here at the Beaver Lodge, and therefore I must oblige. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community. And the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.